The experts, authors, panelists, aficionados, and fellow fans just like us. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to start with a nice round of applause for Mr. Eric Lefcowitz. And they will each introduce their successive people.
All right, we have Fred Velez here. Fred Velez, come on, give it up for Fred. We have Waddell, who runs Monkees.net. Here comes Brad.
Here comes Brad. And we've got Gary Strobl right over here. Gary Strobl.
I lost the bet, so I get to start this thing off. Hey, Charles, let's have a round of applause for Charles, wasn't it? Well, it's great to see everybody here. Some of these faces I haven't seen for 20, 25 years, so it's cool that we... Henry Diltz is here. Henry Tad Diltz. I just saw Henry on the Showtime, the history of the Eagles. Henry is the Forrest Gump of rock and roll. He's everywhere. Anyway, we're going to take some questions and kibitz, as they say in the vernacular. So, and stretch. And I wanted to ask a question, actually. Gary Strobl, who is here. Gary Strobl was videoing the '97 tour of the Monkees in England, and was there for that experience, and that's a very under-documented event. And I wanted to ask him if he had any insights about that, because I'm sure you have a couple of stories.
Yes, I was lucky enough to go to England for this concert. I'd never seen the Monkees as a foursome. And I got to document their last 7 concerts before Michael disappeared. He was scheduled to do the U.S. tour, and the last shows they did in Wembley were phenomenal, and then Mickey Dolenz asked me if I would put together all the songs from the TV show, and that was going to be their set list, like the songs that got played on the TV show, and they were going to just go out as a 4-piece band for the rest of the summer tour. And then I never heard from Mickey. 1 week would go by, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then finally I see Mickey at Samantha's birthday party in late May, and he says, "Michael bailed on us." And I thought, oh my gosh, no wonder I hadn't heard from him. So that's the last time they were together as a foursome. And I captured the last 7 shows, and hopefully that will be coming out in the next year. I found a source for the actual a board tape from one of the shows, and we're going to try to put that together. So yes, that was an amazing experience, and they will go on forever, and let's keep it going, and thank you all for being here.
Hey guys. Anyway, again, it's nice to see everybody here today. We really appreciate it. We all have our experiences with the Monkees. I can tell you some of the things that happened. I remember, was anybody in 83 when Davy Jones came to New York on the QE2? I may be the only one here who was there. And he did like a sort of promotional tour where he appeared on Today's Show, and he also appeared on Regis and Kathy Lee, and the Uncle Floyd Show. I was involved with Uncle Floyd at the time, and I was able to manage to get him on the show. And Uncle Floyd, if you've never seen his interesting show to try to describe, But he had a lot of rock bands like the Ramones. He had Bon Jovi. He had Cyndi Lauper on that show. Incredible people. And he had Peter Tork in one of his earliest appearances in the early 80s. Peter was coming back into the limelight, and Uncle Floyd was one of the first shows he appeared on. And then a few years later, Maggie McManus gave me a ring saying that Davey was coming to New York, and said, can we get Davey on a couple of shows? I said, Uncle Floyd show. I have an in. I know somebody. Uncle Floyd. And we managed it. We got Davey on the show. It was one of the best shows ever. I know the show is floating around there in bootlegs and all that kind of stuff. But meeting Davey, I got to meet Davey, Anita, Jessica when she was just like that. And I remember the first thing I told him when he came to the studio, did you get here all right? And he said, no, we all got killed in the car crash. He had a great sense of humor. And we have all these great memories. Everybody here has their own experiences with them. And I'm privileged that I'm just honored just to be on the same dais with these guys. But I was honored to have written for Maggie McManus's late lamented Monkey Business fanzine. And put up for Maggie, she was wonderful. She's still wonderful. I saw her last year at the New Brunswick Monkees concert. And Eric paid me a very wonderful compliment some time ago. I wrote an article for one of the first articles of Monkees back in the 80s for Video Review magazine. Anybody remember that magazine? Video Review? It was with Jerry Beck, who's a big guy. He's a great cartoon historian. And we worked together on the article where we both gave critiques on all the episodes and our opinions of what we thought were the best episodes. And Eric had read that article, and he told me it was the inspiration for his monkey books. So, I guess I did something. And he happened to have it in his pocket.
Oh, he's going to pay you.
Thank you. It's about time I got the royalties on that. Okay, how about you, Brett?
Okay, I have one story. Monkees.net, thank you very much for making it #1 on Google before Google existed. And we try and bring all the news to you. And we started so early, in fact, that I went to Michael Nesmith's office, Pacific Arts, in California, and he invited me in because he wanted to learn about this new thing called the internet. And I trained him on it, and I showed him how to work it. We set up his first account on PrimeNet, and that was the birth of a new thing he started at that time. He published one chapter and then another chapter, and he put in little clips and icons and oddities and photographs, and he called it The Long Sandy Hair of F2 Zamora. And eventually it turned into a book, and he was looking at the idea of writing a book online and having chaptering. Before blogging even existed, he was deciding, well, let's make a story where every day there's a change and there's new things coming up. And he's really taken a run with that, so I'm really happy with that. And let's talk to Henry Diltz.
Okay, all right. So, what am I supposed to say?
Interview yourself.
Interview myself. I'm Henry Diltz, and I shot photos on the Monkey set for a year and a half. I wasn't there the first season. I was there the second season. First season, Mickey's hair was straight. I was there when it was curly. And I lived in Hollywood, and I would, the Teeny Bopper magazines hired me, like Tiger Beat and 16 and Fave, Monkey Spectacular, and they would pay me for the day, and I would go down and hang out on the set when they were filming. And so I'd go down there Monday morning, and you'd never know what the show was going to be. You know, it would either be outside on the ranch on the Western Street, or it would be, you know, there would be some crazy thing happening. I mean, one morning I walked in there Monday morning, and there were all these girls in harem outfits, and you know, it was that Hero Chic. Is that the one? Everywhere, chic, whatever. Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Gary knows all the answers. I was there, but I don't know all the names. But and then I would just hang out with them all day long and just shoot photos, whatever they were doing. I knew the magazines always wanted headshots, so I would sit there in the lighting stands, you know, where the lights were, so that I wouldn't get in the way of the camera, and I would just have a telephoto lens, and I would just keep it trained on one of the guys until he turned around and laughed, and then I'd click a picture of it. And so those were all the monkey posters and the covers of the magazines and stuff like that. And it was great. It was like a great ride, you know. And then when the '67 summer tour came, I got to go along on that as well. I got to meet Jimi Hendrix up in the hotel one day. And that was cool. I joined the tour a few days late, so I missed all the concerts that he played at. He played in several concerts until it was obvious that that wasn't his venue, you know. But that was great. And and I've known, you know, certainly Mickey was my neighbor in Laurel Canyon. So I would go to his house all the time for parties and one thing and another. And used to go hang gliding and photograph him hang gliding or playing polo or just different things like that. And but I knew them all really well from just hanging out in LA. And you know, very happy that I got to take all those pictures, which was my hobby, which was something I couldn't stop doing, you know, whether I got paid for it or not. It was really fun. So that's my story.
I just want to say something. You know, all four of these people here on stage, I have a connection with through the Monkees and to a bunch of you out there. And I think that's a really interesting thing about the Monkees, is it feels like a big family in a way. And you know, Henry, when I met Henry when I was doing my first book, he was incredibly generous and let me thumb through all his archives in his basement, as I remember, in the Hollywood Hills, and that was really exciting for me. I saw Peter twerk naked.
Oh, we didn't see that one.
Share
In a photo. Maybe I didn't.
How much you want for it?
It was the 80s, so I don't know if I remember that correctly. We didn't publish that one. And then Gary was super helpful and got me some photographs and was incredibly supportive and always has been. And Fred, you already heard about, inspired me to begin with. And Brad, who I've known more recently, has been incredibly generous with his website. And I think it's kind of an open source thing, the Monkees, that we're all allowed to participate in our own way. So I just wanted to say that.
And we should get Gary to mention his book. You mentioned
Gary,
he's got a book that's going to be coming out.
Gary has a book that's coming out. This is great.
Finally.
I was going to say finally.
Finally, yes.
I do too. Hold on.
No,
Wrestle my.
the reason I went to California in the first place was to do a book on the Monkees phenomenon and sort of set the story straight as to how difficult it was to put that show together. And now, 28 years later, after doing all these research and the interviews, we just got a book deal last week out of England. It's going to feature many of Henry's photos, and it's going to be all the interviews that I've conducted in the last 28 years, and it's all going to be the spoken word, and it's all about the original phenomenon. So it's going to detail the whole journey that these guys took, and I'm a little nervous about it because I think I wanted this to go on forever, and somebody said you need to finally put this together. Okay.
When?
So Gary's been collecting interviews for like 28 years, and he wanted to interview every single person that was ever in a Monkee show, or ever wrote a song, or ever played on a record, and it was to show, you know, all these different people and how their lives were affected by being a part of the Monkees in some way or another. All the film crew, you know, the guys that ran the cameras, and I know one day he was at a bank in North Hollywood, and there was a guy in front of him, and they started talking, and he said, "Oh yeah, I played a cop in one of those Monkee episodes." So Gary interviewed him, you know, and one by one, he's got just about everybody. I mean, Harry Nielsen, you still have to get Jack Nicholson, right? But
Jack Nicholson told me at a Lakers game, he said, "Make me your last interview." So I think I'm close to not having to interview anybody, so hopefully that'll happen. Supposedly he's good to his promise, and it'd be very cool to have a few words by him. But yes, it should be out in about a year and a half, and it's a company in England called Omnibus Press, and it's going to be a hardcover, coffee table, full-color, 500-page book about the original phenomenon. Yes, finally, yes.
May I just also say something? I don't know if anybody knows this. I contributed to several Monkee books myself, including Maggie McManus's, Ed Riley's, Bill Chadwick's book, Monkees, Manufactured Image. You'll see some photographs of some of my memorabilia in there. And I had a fantastic opportunity to work on Davy's book, the Mutant Monkees book. And how that happened was that I had wanted to get some work someplace, so I actually sent Davy a letter. And he said, if anything comes up, you think you could use me, just give me a call, whatever. So a couple days later, or about a week or so later, I see my message on my message machine. I turn on and says, "Hello, Fred, this is Davy. Could you give me a call back?" I'm going,
That's Davy.
yeah, that's it. And I call him and says, "Davy." He said, "Yeah, this is Davy. Who's this?" It's Fred. And he told me, "Do you want to come over to Beavertown?" And I'm doing a terrible Davy imitation anyway. Can you come over to Beavertown? Because I'm working on a book, and maybe you could help me with a few things. So yeah, I took a flight over there. I was met by what was his partner?
Alan
Green, right? Alan Green. And took me over to his place, and he told me what they were going to do. And the next day, I went to Davy's house, and we actually had, talked to him. Went to his house in Beavertown, and Davy told me what he wanted, and he wanted all the quotes, from all the Monkee episodes, the Safe Texas Prairie Chicken, all that stuff. So I made up a list of all those quotes and everything, the catchphrases, and then he says, "I need to pick out some stuff for the book." So he pulls out this trunk. He opens it up, and I look inside, and it says, "Oh my goodness." It was full of all his memorabilia. And I said, "I just died and went to monkey heaven." So I said, "So Fred, just pick out, see if there's anything we can go to the book." I'm going to, I'm seeing pictures with Davy, with Frank Zappa, Davy with Pete Townsend. And I said, "Oh, this has to go in the book, this has to go in the book, this has to go in the book." And it was just an amazing weekend and all that. I'm glad to some small extent I got to contribute to some to that book. And it's a memory I'll always have. One of the things that stands out for me on that weekend was that Davy's band was there, and they were rehearsing in his living room. So I'm there, and Davy and the band are rehearsing. I'm literally getting a private concert with Davy Jones. I mean, wow. So that's a memory that's going to live with me for the rest of my life. And thank you, Davy, for that great memory. Thank you so much.
I think we're going to open this up to questions from the audience, if anybody has some.
Come up to the microphone.
Come up to the microphone.
Henry, how did you get involved in photography in the first place? Was that your goal as a kid? Or did you want to be who you grew up? Because you photographed just about everybody. You can see your pictures all over the place.
Well, I was a hippie in the 60s. Actually, I was a folk singer. I sang in a group called the Modern Folk Quartet. So, thank you. And so, our last tour across the country, because we did a single with Phil Spector, and we kept waiting for it to come out so we could be famous, but he never would put it out, because he was paranoid. We were an experiment. We were a folk rock experiment, and he wasn't sure it would be #1, so he wouldn't put it out for until years later it came out on an album. So we kind of got a little bored, with waiting, and two of the guys went back to Hawaii, Chip and Cyrus. And so at our last tour across the country, we were in a motorhome, and we stopped in a little junk store, a secondhand store in Michigan, and we went in, and there was a table full of secondhand cameras for $20. And we each picked one up, and we spent the next 2 weeks photographing each other, and we'd pass a field of cows, and we'd stop the motorhome and get out and photograph the cows. And I remember we went into a junkyard, and I was taking pictures of, there were toilets there with flowers growing out of them, just whatever we saw. We got back to LA and we developed the film, and it turned out to be slides, transparency, so we had a big slideshow. And so the minute I saw one of those pictures, that big, huge on the wall, I thought, wow, I can't even believe this is so magic. Here's all those moments that we shared and all the fun we had, and we can see it again on the wall. There's something about a slide. You know, these are digital slides, and it's not really dark in here, and it doesn't have quite the, if we were in a little tiny room and it was pitch dark and those things were glowing on the wall, it goes, wow, they knock your eyes out. And I just thought, I've got to take more of these things so we can have more slideshows. And that was how it happened. I started photographing all my friends, who were like Stephen Stills and David Crosby and Mama Cass. And these are the people I hung out with all day long in California. And, you know, luckily, a lot of them became famous, and I had the picture, so that's how that happened.
And Henry will be doing his slideshow at 5:30, so please come back and check that out. And just before the slideshow, we're going to play a song that Chip Douglas was kind enough to send called Manchester Boy, which I believe was written by Alan Green.
Yes.
And we're going to introduce the slideshow with that song. It's a special version because Chip could not be here, but he wanted to send that and say thank you to all the fans.
Yes, this lady has a question.
Hello, I have two questions. One is, Eric, you alluded to another book, and if you could tell us when, what, and all that. And I have a secondary question for each or whoever wants to participate. What is your opinion as to why the Monkees became this phenomenon and success and the multi-generational continuation? I mean, they're going to go on until infinity. So if you could give me your perspective, your analysis as to why this happened. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I'll quickly hype this. I revised my book because a lot happened to the Monkees, you know, since I wrote the book. Davey passed away, and there was 2 tours. So I thought, I better go back and redo this. So I have a cool new cover, and Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller has written the foreword. And we have some great new photos in there and some new chapters. Some inside stuff too, which I'll save for the book, but it's kind of interesting what happened behind the scenes on the last couple of tours. As for the phenomenon, I think it's turned out to be something no one could have predicted. It's sort of an intergenerational thing now, where you know, your 10-year-old kid has probably heard of the Monkees, and you know, they haven't heard of some of those somewhat cooler bands, let's say, some of those psychedelic bands from the 60s that were probably considered, you know, more important at the time. And I think the Monkees have endured as an important band for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, just the fact that there was a lot of talented people involved, great songwriters, and I think also the fact that it was captured in living color on film, and it was recorded in, you know, the best studios, and everything was done to the best level that could be done at the time. And I think that's important. I think if it was poorly recorded, and it was in black and white, and it was some hack songwriters, you know, we wouldn't be here. But, you know, that's my opinion.
Pretty much echo everything Eric said. Seeing it more from the perspective of from the fan, from the way back when they first started. Just remembering seeing the show, enjoying it. It was so much fun. Listening to the songs, they were marvelous, they were fantastic. And then the long drought period when the show had gone off the air, nobody took them seriously anymore. But I was like one of the few that said, I still like them, I still like them. And just because of the quality of the songs, I just had, for a long time, there was no, before they went on Saturday morning, there was no show. It was just the music, and the music's kept saying things to me. I just really, you know, the songwriting of Michael Nesmith, Mickey Dolenz, I mean, Michael Nesmith in particular, I mean, what an amazing talent. The guy has, beyond the Monkees, he's gone on and done all these fantastic things, not just the music, but video and all that. And Later on, I learned about all the people behind the scenes, Bert Schneider, Bob Rafelson, Harry Nielsen, all these fantastic writers, Paul Mazursky, one of the great filmmakers of all time. Thank you, Paul Mazursky fans. So, and then later on, just to be actually knowing some of these guys, to know Davey, to know Peter, and finding out, what great guys they are. And this is just, it's something, it's a difference between what the Beatles are and what the Monkees are. The Beatles were always wonderful, fantastic talents, but they were always like up here. You couldn't reach them, they were up on Olympus. But the Monkees, they were hanging out, they were with you, maybe coming to your town, They came walking down the street. I mean, they were approachable, they could reach them, you could talk to them. And I think that's part of the phenomena, that they weren't untouchable, that you could actually get in touch with them. A lot of you have personal experiences with each of them, especially Davey. I've seen videos of Davey in concert, just diving into the audience, just having fun with them, and that's part of it, I think. Just that personal touch, I think, is what makes the monkey phenomena so special to everyone on this stage, to this room, to the rest of the world.
Opinion on the popularity, I think it was exactly as he said, their approachableness. They were, as a guy, they were guys you wanted to hang out with. As a girl, they were guys you wanted to hang out with. And then, the TV show was innovative, it was color, it was new at the time. There were no parents involved. And I think the visual image was very strong, and that's repeated. Whenever you hear the music, the picture goes into your head of them sword fighting or throwing cakes at each other, whatever it was. But I think it was very popular, and they put all the right things into the mix, and it came out just right. The proof is 1986, way bigger than 1966. I mean, huge, 10 albums in the top 20, because they were just sitting on the shelf. They issued them all at the same time, and they were all in the top 20. And on the radio, all you heard was Monkees all the time. So, even bigger, and I've never heard of any group that's had such a huge resurgence in popularity, just because of the television show. So they go together.
Even Change has gotten back into the charts. I didn't know it in the charts before.
Bigger than ever.
Yes. Well, I agree with everything they said, and for me personally, the fact that they used their own names in the TV show I think it was the producers that decided to do that. And when I picked up my first Tiger Beat magazine and I spent Christmas with Mickey Dolenz and his family, I thought, wow, I was friends. I was vicariously living my life through them, and I thought one day I'm gonna meet these people. And now it's beyond those expectations. I mean, I became very close to most of them, and especially Davey. We were like family. And so I think that the fact that they use their own names and the personalities that you saw on television were pretty close to what they are in person. Peter had the toughest role, but and then the music was so remarkably done, and the people that worked on those songs and the songwriters. It's going to go on because I think the TV show was so accessible to all ages. It reached just a major demographic. And the music is timeless. The TV show is still irreverent and funny. And there's a lot of subtle humor. As I became older, it's like, oh, how did they get away with that? But so I think it's going to go on till the next generation and the generation after that. They were the closest thing to the Beatles, and they came into our living room every Monday nights if you were an original fan. And now you can get them on DVD, and it's just going to continue. And thank you, Davey, and the rest of the guys.
I have a son who's 27 years old, and he's a heavy metal bass player right now in LA. But in '88, when he was 3 years old, I saw him one day, he was standing right in front of the TV set. He had a little ukulele around his neck with a string, and he was playing, and the Monkees show was on. And he was so excited, and I thought, wow, look at that little guy. And he doesn't know that this is already, 20, 30 years old. I mean, to him, it was 20 years old. But to him it was brand new. He discovered it, and it was something he loved, and I think that's what'll go on and on. And the thing that made them so phenomenal is because it was a TV show and a really great recording group, and the records supported the TV show, and the TV show supported the group, supported the records. Back and forth. The fact that you have both of those, there hasn't been much of that. I mean, the Partridge Family was another thing where you had the records and the TV show. And I think maybe if Sheldon and Leonard had a group and could sing, Big Bang Theory might be, as popular. Let me just say one thing real quick. Come up, yeah, go ahead. I just want to throw something in. Jon Stewart wrote the song Daydream Believer. And his wife Buffy called me about an hour ago. And she said, be sure to tell them to play. She sent a video of her recording Daydream Believer. She just has an album out, and it's called Daydream Believer. And Peter and Davey sang on it. And so I think they have the video here. I hope they're going to show it. But look for Buffy Stewart's album called Daydream Believer, and those guys sing on it. Sir?
Yeah, how's it going? Good question I've had for quite some time. Regarding their last concert in England in '97, I had read in a couple of different places that Mike Nesmith in particular got some pretty harsh reviews. Is that true? And do you think that's any reason to account for his disappearance?
Well, I witnessed all of it, and they had these reviews, and they were very unkind. But the 10,000 people that showed up to Wembley, it didn't matter to them. And I think Michael may have just taken it to heart a little too closely. I don't know if that affected why he didn't do the rest of the tour in the U.S. But yeah, I think the critics were not kind as far. The shows were phenomenal. Every show that I witnessed, those last 7 shows, people that I talked to after the shows said it was one of the best shows they've ever seen. So the thing about critics is you shouldn't acknowledge the critics, because when you get a movie review and they say this movie is terrible, but yet it becomes the blockbuster movie of the year, it's like, well, don't listen to one person. And I don't know if that's the reason why Michael didn't do it. I'm not really sure. Maybe, I don't know.
Because critics' job is to criticize. So they're not doing their job unless they're critical. And that's why they always do that.
So that answered your question, probably didn't.
I just walked in. I just had dinner. I walked in this panel, and Eric, is that you at the end? Okay. Are you going to be in the vendor area to sign the books? Because I have a copy about it.
Oh, great.
Now, I remember in 1986, the 20th reunion, you were in that week of MTV being interviewed. I bought that book. Can't wait for you to sign it. But what about the timing of the phenomenon in '86 and your book coming out? Was the only book that came out at the time that explained the whole past and everything? I just wanted, were your sales record high that year?
Well, I never sold that many books again, unfortunately, but predictably. It was a coincidence. I got hooked on the Monkees, well, when I was 6, but especially around '84, I started interviewing the Monkees for various articles, and I was really fortunate that Bert Schneider, the co-producer of the Monkees, let me into his house. He was a bit reclusive, and had a chance to meet him, and then he called up Bob Rafelson, and the dominoes kept falling, and I thought, there's a book here. This is such a fascinating story, and if you really had gone through back in that time and looked through the perceived history of rock and roll, the Monkees were a footnote at that point. So I felt, there was something there, and so I wrote the book. There was something in the air, and then MTV came along about 6 months later, and it was coincidental completely that, I had my book out at the time, but they called me up and flew me down to Los Angeles and interviewed me, stuck my face in my horrible 80s haircut all over the place.
They get me.
And I think Gary was on there too, and Henry. Monkey Minutes. Yeah, Martha Quinn said, that guy. I remember she said, you know, I was on for a second, and she said, that guy. And I was like, wow, Martha Quinn said, that guy. Wow, I'm something. But it was an exciting time. It was really interesting to see them come back in the 80s and how they were embraced by a whole new generation. And I kind of speculated in the book about how they take on different meanings. In the 80s, they were a video band. And then, you know, they kind of like our reality TV show. You know, I mean, they just keep on taking new meanings as time goes on.
And how's Maggie McManus? I don't know.
I saw Maggie McManus last year at the New Brunswick Monkees Convention. I believe she was at the Philadelphia one as well. She's doing well. She's doing well. She's just, you know, not into it as much. But she appreciates everybody who keeps thinking about her, sending good thoughts about her. And she's very proud of Monkey Business. Ed Riley as well. And again, I was proud to have been a writer on that magazine as well. It's dearly missed. The internet, unfortunately, you know, killed off pretty much fanzines. The internet is doing what fanzines used to do, but we have to give Maggie a big round of applause for her. You mentioned Martha Quinn. I got a story. Anybody remember the Monkey Marathon in early '86? Oh, yeah. Remember the memorabilia that was spread around that the DJs were around? That was mine. Maggie had, they had called Maggie, MTV had called Maggie, and said, we need some monkey memorabilia. We're going to do a monkey marathon to show all the episodes. We're going to have decorate the studio with monkey stuff. Says, you know anybody who could provide it? He says, yeah, Fred Velez. So I got a call from MTV, and I got my biggest suitcase, threw everything in there, and displayed all the dolls, all the stuff that I had, and everything. And I had a yellow Monkees T-shirt, the monkey logo and everything on it. And Martha Quinn decided to wear it during her little segment. Now, she wanted it to look cool, so she tore off the sleeves. And the stage manager knew it was my stuff. She thought that MTV had just bought it someplace and she could do whatever she wanted with it. So, excuse me. Later in her segment, I'm in the green room where the pool room is and the food and everything. And I'm watching it on the monitor, and she says, I got to apologize to Fred Velez because I tore his shirt. And I'm looking at, I'm almost throwing the food cue right at the monitor. So later, she comes running into the green room and says, Fred, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this. I thought it belonged to MTV. He said, it's okay, just send me a check. Yeah. And he did. I got a $25 check from MTV, but it was fine. I didn't care, but I think I still have the T-shirt somewhere. I could say, maybe one day in eBay, you'll say, torn by Martha Quinn on MTV.
Yeah, exactly.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for being here. You're all terrific. Would anybody care to speculate what would have happened to the Monkees' career if Head had been an extremely big box office success?
You were closer to it. Good question.
My take on it is that the phenomenon of the Monkees, when anything is so popular, it has a shorter lifespan. And I think even if the movie was successful, I don't know if the guys could have sustained what they were doing. I'm not sure, like everybody says, well, how come the show didn't go a third season? Well, they were getting tired of the formula program, and they wanted to do something where they would have guests. And they started doing that at the end of the series, where they had Charlie Smalls on, and they had Tim Buckley and Frank Zappa. And Peter's choice was supposedly Pete Seeger, but he was unavailable.
Really?
So that's the direction they wanted to do, more variety shows. So whether the movie ended their career, it was not the movie they should have made. It was Bob Rafelson's vehicle, and the Monkees were were a part of that, it was not the best. And they called the movie Head. I mean, it was like, so, I don't know. I don't think that would have affected the longevity of the original career of the Monkees.
One quick comment. I think there is a 3-year cycle for teen idols. It's a 12, 13, 14-year-old thing. And if you look at the careers of teen idols, you've got the Monkees rolling right over to Bobby Sherman for 3 years, and you've got it rolling over to Debbie Cassidy for 3 years. And each of them gets that 3-year window. And after 3 years, the girls now want adult stuff. They don't want the stuff that they had when they were kids. So I think most of the bands and individuals that fall into that category have that 3-year cycle. After that, they just kind of hang around. They aren't really the white-hot phenomenon that they once were with that age group.
Everybody out there has the BBS collection, the Bert Schneider, the Bob Rafelson collection that has Head in there, it's in Blu-ray too. If you check out disc 2, the 5 Easy Pieces disc, there's an extensive interview with Bob Rafelson and Jack Nicholson talking about the movie Head. And Jack Nicholson tells this fantastic story I told at Eric's screening a couple months ago, some months ago in Brooklyn, where Jack Nicholson came to Bob Rafelson and said, I've got this idea for a Monkees movie, and he says, go to Bert and give him the idea. So Jack Nicholson goes to see Bert and says, I have 2 ideas for a Monkee movie. One will be as successful as Hard Day's Night. It'll be breaking in the money. The other one won't make a dime. And Schneider said, make the second movie. So I think they had it in mind what they wanted to do. I personally think I would love to have seen the script of the first one, and it would have been nice if Head was a commercial success. It's great that it's a cult favorite, that it's loved by people, even though it does have that little cynical, little sinister touch to it. But it's such an amazing movie. I mean, I've seen it many times, and I always see something new in it. And it's one of those type of films, and I personally think it's the most creative, the most artistic thing the Monkees ever did. It's a shame it was a failure at the time. It's great that it's appreciated today. And I asked Eric, after all these years, did Head finally make money?
Head has never played in 2 cities on the same night. I think that answers the question. It may have eventually broken even. But I think to answer the question, what would they have gone on to do? Well, it brings up 2 ideas in my mind. One is that 33 1/3 special, which I think is doesn't compare to Head. I liked it, but I kind of liked it when it was a fuzzy bootleg.
Remember those?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, it was interesting at the time when I first interviewed Michael Nesmith for my first book, that he said that he expected that they were going to make a bunch of movies. And I later found out that when Bert and Bob kind of confessed that they wanted to get rid of the Monkees phenomenon from their lives and move on to movies, that really hurt, when people found out when the group found out that was the truth. So I think there was some subterfuge there. But I agree with Fred. I think it's a great work of art.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we could go on forever with this panel, and what we probably should have done is give you like 10 hours in a separate room. But we are out of time because we got to bring on a gentleman by the name of Peter Torre. So before everybody, ladies and